Welcome to Her Remarkable History. Remember, to support our channel, please subscribe. The Lost French Mistress of Henry VIII. Henry VIII is most famously known for the fact he had 6 wives, 2 of which were executed within the walls of the Tower of London. As well as having the pick of women at the royal court, Henry VIII also had a number of mistresses. Women who were at court were encouraged to catch the eye of the king, even if they were married. Their husbands would sometimes even encourage this sort of behaviour, as they would be rewarded heavily with land and wealth if their wives slept with the king. One of the king's most prominent mistresses was Jane Boleyn, who was the sister of his future second wife, Anne Boleyn. It's rumoured that Jane could have bore the king 2 illegitimate children who resembled Henry VIII with their appearance and their ginger hair. But there were many more women who slept with the king and became his mistress. But one woman who did this, but isn't the most well known, is his French mistress, Jane Popincourt. But what is her story? Jane Popincourt was a French maid of honour at the royal court of King Louis XII and then Francis I. She was considered a skilled woman and a woman who was knowledgeable in European courtly games and love. But from around 12 years, she came to the English court and she remained a prominent person there during the reign of King Henry VII. She would teach Henry VII's children, Margaret and Mary, how to speak French, which was considered very important. Henry VII wanted his children to marry powerful European princes and princesses to ensure that they could build powerful alliances with different countries. For them to learn different languages was seen as imperative, and who better to teach them than Jane Popincourt, a woman who had been at the French royal court. But following Henry VII's death and the ascension of Henry VIII in 1509, Jane was appointed to become a maid of honour to his wife Catherine of Aragon. It was within her ladies-in-waiting that Henry VIII would hunt for women to sleep with, and he would find a number of his mistresses in his wives' ladies-in-waiting. It's believed that in 1514, 5 years after becoming king, that Jane had become a royal mistress, despite the fact she was probably older and also had been a teacher to the king's sisters. During the Battle of the Spurs in 1513, Henry VIII's soldiers captured a significant number of French nobles, including Louis d'Orléans, the Duke of Longueville. Henry would also bring a number of these back home to England. It's not known whether the Duke had met Jane Popincourt at the French court, but as her countryman was introduced as he came to the English court. The pair struck up a romantic relationship. Louis was technically a hostage ready to be ransomed, but he was used as an ambassador to arrange the marriage of Mary Tudor and Louis XII, and despite being incarcerated by the King of England, he was treated with much respect and grandeur. However, the affair Jane had with Louis damaged her reputation, and she was around her late 20s and was expected to have been married and have a husband. But this was not the case, and the Duke was then sent back to France in 1514. So after this, it's believed that Jane had an affair with Henry VIII, and it's presumed he may have heard about the stories that she had slept with the Duke. Presumably, Henry VIII was enticed by this. Jane would have slept with the king a number of times, and no doubt the Queen, Catherine of Aragon, would have known about the fact one of her maids had become the king's mistress. But their liaisons were believed to have not lasted too long. But it is believed that around this time, Jane wanted to return home to France. Other accounts claim that she was not welcome any longer at the English court, and this could have been the king casting her aside as he got bored with sleeping with her. After the king ended his liaisons with her, this would leave her without a place at court, as Catherine of Aragon, the queen, would not want the king's old mistress in her company. She was listed as an attendant to Henry VIII's sister, Princess Mary, who was about to become the Queen of France after her marriage. But when Louis XII saw her name, he allegedly said that she should have been burnt at the stake, and that the French king would not allow Jane Popincourt to attend on his wife or the Queen of France. It's believed she was immoral, and Jane stayed in England until 1516, until she then returned home to France. However, when she got back to France, it's believed that she re-instigated her affair that she had been having with the French Duke, and that Henry VIII gave her £100 as a leaving present. But there's much more that remains a mystery about Jane Popincourt. She was a woman who was outcasted from the English court after she slept with the king, but she was also a woman who was not welcome at the French court. It's not known what happened to her following her departure, or when she died, but she remains today a mysterious and lost mistress of Henry VIII. She was a skilled teacher who was considered reliable by Henry VII and was trustworthy enough to teach the two princesses French, one of whom would later become the French queen. But today she is remembered for her brief affair with Henry VIII, who would later go on to have many more mistresses and a love life which was deadly, tragic and shocking. Thank you for watching, and to support, please subscribe to Her Remarkable History. Thank you.